Can you predict what this lecture is about today?
Design.
The what now?
Oh, tree drawings.
No, it's a 100% continuation of the last lecture because I'm wearing the same shirt and because I'm being filmed. I mean, you guys know nothing. You go to the movies and you think that those actors have been posing in front of the camera continuously. No. Some male actor was probably in prison for 10 months, and then he shows up, and he can, to give the impression of continuity, he wears the same outfit. It's always the same thing. Same as in American football. They break their leg and some other bone, and then they show up wearing the same uniform, and you think it's just continuity. It's fake. Anyway, today's lecture is an example of that. We just lost our duty. Okay. On Monday, we dealt with a very simple, meaning the simplest kind of tree-shaped flow. It is the simplest tree is the T, the capital T, which is this one. And you know the story. You took notes. Those of you who did not take notes will find this as the introductory section in chapter 4. But it's my turn to make fun of you, because when I started to lecture on Monday, I was promising you flow architecture that connects a point to an area, or an area to one point. In fact, I drew something like this. And this is the point, and this is the area. But this simplest of all, meaning, and of course, I'll show you tree architectures on this kind of general or arbitrary premise. But here you just have a 1 and then 2. Or one channel bifurcating. If you don't like that, you have 2 channels pairing, coming together. You see, 2 ways of speaking about the same drawing. Remember this. What matters here is the drawing, not the way people speak. In fact, drawings, images, okay, for that matter, designs were passed through the jungle, existed before language. If you don't believe me, go, observe animals in the bush. They know what they're doing. And it's called design. Somebody said design. You did, okay? Yeah, right. Design means drawing, image, path. And so Adrian has not been truthful, because the flow here is between from 1 point to 2 points, not to an area. Certainly not to this one. So to show you that I was in fact leading up to this is the purpose of this continuation of my lecture on Monday. Another thing, this simplest of all trees, the T structure, or for that matter, bifurcation and pairing, goes by an additional name in science. It's called dichotomy. Which from Greek means to cut into 2 pieces, you go, not because you're too young, but you go have a tomography. This apparatus takes slices, of the human body and then puts them together. That means to cut. And that means two. So dichotomy, it is one kind of, one feature in certain designs. You'll see, hopefully a little bit later, quadrupling. It's another feature that competes with this one. All right, so we begin with this teaser to show you that I'm not going to repeat myself, but I start with reminders. First of all, this sort of configuration owes its ability to offer access to this stream called M.1 to two features. We call them degrees of freedom or proportions. One was d1 over d2, turned out to be 2 to the power 1/3, and L1 over L2, coincidentally, the same value. You know the notation, L1 is here, L2 is here, D1 is here, and D2 is in one of the branches. And there are only 2 degrees of freedom, in spite of the fact that the drawing is full of symbols, because of 2 constraints. One was the area, the so-called external size, and the other one is the flow volume. You have it in your notebooks. I'm not going to write it again. And I used to be like you, I mean, when I was your age, I would constantly look for ideas by touching my head. And the professor thought that I had something important to say, and he would call on me. And I would say, oh, no, it wasn't me. Anyway, so you reminded me of that frequent moment. With these results and these 2 constraints, you can manipulate and determine expressions for the actual dimensions of the drawing, D1, D2, L1, and L2, okay? You can do that. I'll list only 2 such results because they will be useful very soon. It turns out, meaning you can show, that L1 equals 2 to the power minus 1/3 square root of A, and L2 is 2 to minus 2/3 square root of A. What is square root of A? Well, it's square root of this fixed size of the page filled by the drawing. You have a 2-dimensional design. The square root of that area is the length scale of the design. If the area is a certain number of square meters, forget about that. Let's just say if the area is approximately 1 square meter, then the length scale is 1 meter, you see. In other words, you have to buy so much paper in one piece if you are to make that blueprint. And but the vertical dimension on this simplest drawing is 2L2, which means 2 to the power 1/3 square root of A. I already made the observation. In fact, you can check your iPhone that 2 to an exponent that's quite a bit smaller than 1 is essentially almost the same as 1. How do I know that? How do I know that? I mean, I know this from a long time ago, before the iPhone became a tool. Back during the days when Americans landed on the moon, there was no. Well, actually, they did have this HP 34, I think it was what they or 33 they carried on board. That was the beginning of portable calculators. What they had was a slide rule, and the slide rule is a drawing. It is the axis of numbers listed from left to right in ascending value. If this is 0.1, this is 1, and this is 10. You've seen this. This is known as the logarithmic sequence of numbers. And what's I teach how to draw this without looking at a mathematical table. Here in the middle is 0.3. A little bit off the middle is 0.2. Multiply 0.2 by 2, you obtain twice as much. Sorry. Is 4. And so on. And you get the idea that a number, I think it was 1.26 for 2 to the power 1/3. If this is 2 and this is 1, then 1.26 hugs this number called 1. You see? So you see a number that's kind of calls to be respected as being special? No. It is either something of order 1, or 0.1, or of order 1, or of order 10. This doesn't mean that you are simplifying your thinking or that you are shallow. It means that you are more powerful because you're not wasting time, because you have the broad picture of the meaning of all this numerics. But you can overlook this. This, by the way, is being taught in the book Freedom and Evolution as an aside. But you look here, this is the horizontal dimension, and this is the vertical dimension of the simplest tree. And because these leading factors are essentially 1, then it means that this drawing, the way I drew it, is not that, how should I say, correct. A drawing that's closer to square is more like what these results represent. So if that's L1, then this is 2L2. And this is a hint that will propel me in this lecture toward, say, 20 minutes from now. In fact, maybe even sooner than that. Okay? So, in other words, you obtain a little bit of mathematics in your work. Try to imagine the visual implications of those results. Next, with these results, you can go back into what led to their being born, which was the act of varying the degrees of freedom to reduce the geometric function called R from, flow resistance for the fully developed laminar regime. And that formula was, it was L1 d1 to the fourth plus 1/2 L2 d2 to the fourth. The point is that if you substitute these promised values, the ones coming from combining the proportions with the constraints, in other words, you evaluate the overall flow resistance in this architecture that was optimized twice, once by varying the degree of freedom called d over d, and the second time L over L, you obtain this expression minimized twice. A few lectures ago, I call this double minimization minimum minimorum, because that's the name of it, except that resistance in Latin is a noun verb. No connection between, what I just said about the noun, but it's feminine, not masculine, so it's resistencia. And that means that it's not the minimum minimorum, but it's minima minora. I don't know about you, but if you run into some colleagues from arts and sciences at some party, and they start speaking to you in Latin, and they refer to a feminine noun as minimum, you should correct them. Say, no, it's minima. Everybody knows that. What, you don't like to joke? If you don't like to joke, you'll die young, okay? So, the verb.
Wait, I thought minima was like the plural of minimum.
So what now?
I thought like when you have multiple minimums, it's like the minima of a function.
Yeah. This one is the smallest of the smallest in English. Because after the first step, you remember we had an analysis conducted in 2 steps. After the first step, we came up with a minimum. Okay? And then we took advantage of the second degree of freedom, which was the L over L, to find the smallest of those small, you see. And that means I call it double minimization or sequential minimization. Computers do this, but it's much better when you don't use computers. It's much better when you don't use anything except your mind. I'll get to it in a second. In fact, okay, you know who is the head of meaning the director of the Saturn V project that took the Apollo mission to the moon several times? I don't know what you are reading. Yeah, go ahead. Who? Exactly. He was also in charge of the FAU 1 and 2 of the German Luftwaffe during World War II, okay? Shows you what a great country America is. So this guy who was in charge of those weapons that were terrifying Britain was welcomed here to do what he knew best. Werner von Braun, who, if I reproduce his dictum correctly, the human mind is the best computer, and it is also has zero cost because mothers keep giving birth all the time. You see, get it? So do not play around with your brain, because it's extremely special. Anyway, when you make these substitutions, after you figure out the value of L, L, and D, D, you obtain pi squared area to 3/2 divided by 4 times the volume supply squared. And this is a formula that we will keep here in a box for a while. First of all, it makes sense, because clearly if the territory is wider, it's more difficult for the, in this case, water to flow from this wide area to the point. If the ducts are wider and wider, capital V increases, and the resistance decreases sharply. In other words, once again, you get a piece of mathematics under your nose, try to figure out whether that result makes sense physically. In other words, compare it with your intuition. And your intuition is not something that you're born with. It comes from repeated lessons that end up landing on your cortex. Repeated lessons. And when I kid you, I ask you, what are you guys reading? What are you guys watching? Obviously not very much, because you're not reacting to what I'm telling you. These things, even Werner von Braun, okay, now an important piece of Americana, it's important to know. And if you already know it, then the new lesson you get is much more valuable. Never mind that. It's much easier to learn, because it lands on a fertile ground in your mind. So do not spend your time with trivia, although trivia could be useful. Look, pay attention, read again, and keep reading. So that's the summary so far. Oh, wait a minute. I was just remembered. By the way, I made a drawing because it was keeping me awake during the night. It's amazing. I never published this, but it fits right here. Why this drawing does not contradict my promise, which was to show you the birth of the tree architecture. And here's the answer, which is a new lesson called T is the mother of the tree. Yeah. On Monday, I got carried away, or got ahead of myself by teaching you, this is last Monday, that the tree is the mother of, or the generator of the network. You see, that was last Monday. If you don't remember, you may have access to this video of Monday, but it's much better if you make a life-changing decision and start taking notes in this class by hand. I see some of you are here as if you've come to the movies. Well, I'm like the actor who is in jail for 10 months. I'm not acting, okay? Take notes. You, for example.
My brain seeks access to your education.
Oh. Don't get me started. When I was your age, I was growing up in a locker room where the answers were very, very, very memorable, but not allowed to be repeated outside the locker room, okay? So, this is the new drawing. The new drawing. I start with the way I started. Yeah. So this was the beginning. The drawing that's shown over there is here. In other words, that's the entrance and the exit. And then the mirror image of it is, let me draw it in orange, with input here and arrival over here. And with, I think I'm making the same thing. Anyway, that's the construct that is born. Okay? And then the next move is to use this building block as many times as you have patience. And I'll just draw with red the tree that emerges. It's first of all this way, and then this way, and then, no, never mind. It's not that way anymore. I'm not drawing these channels anymore now. I just draw the places where the water entered. I just draw the channel, the bigger ones. Here goes all the way across, and then this way, and then the same down here. And then same here. And then collecting the thick ones takes us to this location. And from there, everything is evacuated out. That's what you get with the power of your imagination. All right? And you arrive at a tree on an area, and then you say, well, wait a minute, but what about these inputs? You know, the places, and there are many, where the water is arriving. There are many. Well, they're all over. What about these? The input is uniformly distributed over the area. This is now the discovery on the back of an envelope or in your sleep of the design of the river basin. The water on the river basin comes from rain. So rain is falling uniformly. Arrives uniformly. Channels are born non-uniformly, meaning their thicknesses are not, the thickness is non-uniform. So channels non-uniformly. And why are they being born? We've already gone through this. Because the rain and the river formation mechanism called erosion is older or faster than the rate at which the ground is rising. And you look at this marbled sketch, you get an idea why the hills and dips you go through when you drive, for example, through Durham, are so numerous, as if somebody in prehistory was having fun with not allowing the land to be flat. Well, these local hill here and the local valley here, in fact, you see this in the nomenclature, printed on the map of any town you're familiar with, such and such valley or such and such hill. They're all over the place. All that comes from the prehistoric existence of a river basin. In fact, the eastern half of North Carolina used to be a river delta. How do you know that? You see the shape of it. The outer banks is where the river delta was depositing its silt and is there to remain for good.